Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Days Podcast along with a new video. I want to thank you guys so much for liking, subscribing, viewing, watching, and listening. I truly appreciate it. I know it's been a while since I've been on here to be able to speak with you and be able to talk about different topics. I am here. I am going to continue to make more episodes and videos for you all. Whether it is free content, exclusive content that will be on Patreon and Spotify. Be sure to check out the ones that are there. But yes, we are going to today talk about Basic Instinct by Ciara. So let's get into it. So Basic Instinct is the fourth studio album by Ciara. It was released on December 10th, 2010 by LaFace Records and Jive Records. Executive produced by A&R agent Mark Pitts, Ciara, Tricky Stewart, and Dream. Basic Instinct returns Ciara to her urban roots with mid-tempo R&B cuts and bass-heavy pop and dance songs. Aside from production by Stewart and The Dream, Ciara collaborated with production by Sounds, Infinity, and T-Minus. Frequent collaborator and friend Ludacris makes a guest vocal appearance, as does label mate and fellow Atlanta native Usher. After her previous album, Fantasy Ride, suffered numerous leaks and pushbacks, information about Basic Instinct was kept confidential until the first single was released and the album was complete. So, in the previous video that I made for Fantasy Ride, I pretty much was not trying to say that there were pushbacks and leaks, more or less to show that outside of those things that there were also people that were wanting to dive deeper into their faith. And, you know, it dawned me that, there were pushbacks and numerous leaks, because this was in the peak time of people really downloading before it was like, all right, we're not releasing anything, hold what you have. Because it was getting real. No one was making money. So, but as far as just, being fair, things had to be handled differently. It just had to be. Despite keeping more control of the album's content, Basic Instinct still suffered several pushbacks due to the leaking of the songs from the album's recording sessions, much like its predecessor. 3 singles preceded the album's release, including the Ludacris-assisted lead single Ride, which peaked within the top 5 on the U.S. Hot R&B Hip-Hop Songs chart at number 3 and number 42 on the Hot 100. The other singles, Speechless and Gimme That, failed to have success like Ride, and all the singles failed to impact significantly on international single charts. Basic Instinct was well received by critics, on average scoring 72 out of 100, according to Metacritic. Most critics praised the 11-track set for its strong productions and cohesive themes, which drew comparisons to the early career of Janet Jackson. However, there were criticism towards the dated and unoriginal sound of the album, as well as Ciara's soft vocals being overshadowed by the album's production. So, critics felt like this is, great as far as for, her being back again, her 4th album. She's wanting to make sure that, of course, that things don't get leaked, but because they are getting leaked, we still need to be able to treat this as such. And they felt as though there could have been more of her giving lyrical content rather than just the instrumentation, if that is a word, or just the instruments, if you will. Like, I will say that, in the early 2010s, like, there was a sense of people, like, really getting heavier beats and heavy instruments and wanting to, broaden the sense of sound, if you will, with newer headphones. Like, we were getting into that time. And, I'm not saying that the quality isn't there with this album. I think that, again, leaking it does make an album suffer. I'm not gonna hold you. It's not a good thing. I think that it can really make the era for the album suffer a bit too, because you're kind of feeling like, all right, well, what is making this special, as opposed to people just, oh well, here's the new Ciara album. It's like, what? Like, wait a minute. Like, there's a whole story behind this. So Basic Instinct debuted on the US Billboard 200 and at number 44 with 37,000 copies sold, becoming the lowest selling debuting album of Ciara's career up to that point, and continuing a downward trend in her commercial success. Oh my god. In international territories, the album was also unsuccessful, most notably reaching the top 30 on the Australian Urban Chart and the UK R&B chart. On February 14, 2011, just 2 months after the album's release, Ciara published a statement detailing the issues she experienced with Basic Instinct. She detailed how she alone paid over $100,000 for the Gimme That music video, and how the label refused to promote the singles on US radio stations. Ciara openly criticized her label for the lack of support with Basic Instinct, as well as her previous album, Fantasy Ride, and asked to be released from her contract with LaFace Records, Jive, as a result. Later in May 2022, the album was awarded a silver certification from the British phonographic industry. So, to be honest with you guys, like, I said this, like, going independent and labels not believing in you, or labels, may not be, pushing you a certain way, that's a real thing. I said this with Remy, and, as far as with Megan, she's a lot more vocal about it now than when she first was, independent. Janet Jackson is independent. There's a lot of people that have imprints that you wouldn't think have imprints, because they need their money. Y'all at times will buy, and y'all at times will stream. That's life. We get it. As far as for whoever's making content and whoever's watching it. So at the end of the day, she herself felt like, listen, I need to be on my own. Like, I don't know if I need to be, on my own, but more or less just I need to be with a different label or my own label. But it's wild. But this was a peak time where people, again, like I said, weren't buying. They were more or less wanting to stream. But yeah. And then as far as for promotion for the album, she did push as much as she was able to, as far as to, go on to different, shows as far as TV, where, she's making appearances, and, there was just not enough being able to be considered for this album as maybe it should have, at least to me, because as far as for critics, they felt like it was a good album. They just also felt like the way that it was marketed wasn't marketed. But they did feel as though there were comparisons to Janet, and yeah, there was All Music that said that 4 out of 5, and called it Ciara's most consistent and unified release, one of 2010's finest pop R&B albums. So it's not even so much it was a bad album, it's just that, again, people were leaking it, and the label, as you can see, just kind of just let it ride, and that's wild. But as far as the track list, here's the track list. So we got Basic Instinct, You Got Me, track 1. Track 2 is Ride, featuring Ludacris. Track 3 is Gimme That. Track 4 is Heavy Rotation. Track 5, Girls Get Your Money. Track 6, Yeah, I Know. Track 7, Speechless. Track 8, You Can Get It. Track 9, Turn It Up, featuring Usher. Track 10, Wants for Dinner. Track 11, I Run It. And then the iTunes Store pre-order bonus track, Listen to My Song, as opposed to the Japanese edition bonus track, This Is What Love Is. So they also had a Japanese edition bonus DVD and iTunes Deluxe edition bonus music videos, where she literally took, her top 10, if not her videos that she's released in pretty much throughout her career so far in this time, where it's Goodies, 1-2 Step, Get Up, Promise, Like a Boy, Can't Leave Him Alone, Never Ever, Go Girl, Love, Sex and Magic, and Ride. So it was more or less a collective to kind of get people to know, like, I'm 4 albums in, y'all should know me by now, and why not, but I thank you guys so much for listening and watching. And again, this was just the beginning of Ciara's ongoing journey of, possibly making strides even more now as an independent artist. Because I'm not sure if the next album, which was her self-titled, which was Ciara, was independent, but she did come out with the very best of Ciara, which is the compilation album that came out in 2012, where it was, all of her hits pretty much. But I mean, we can still see. We can see. So I think she had went with Epic Records instead when it came to her self-titled. So we will definitely talk about that album in the future, but I thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll be back with more.